Kris Mackowski of Emerging Civil War. I'm with our chief historian, Kris White, who's doing a little drone flying for us today. And we've got a really special treat for you here on the anniversary of the Battle of Fredericksburg. One of the common misconceptions is that when Ambrose Burnside got to the north side of the Rappahannock River in mid-November 1862, he couldn't get across the river, but gosh, the river's shallow enough upriver above the town that he could have just walked across. And of course, there's that scene in the movie Gods and Generals where Winfield Scott Hancock sees a cow standing in the middle of the river, and he goes to Burnside and says, "Look, we can just walk across the river." And Burnside says, "No, we can't." And then, of course, the movie portrays him as being a dumb idiot for not being able to just walk across the river like a cow. So we're taking the drone out so you can see just what the river is like. Here it is. It's mid-December, and so you're seeing what things would have looked like at the time of the battle. And we want you to kind of get a bird's eye view of the Rappahannock River so you can understand why Burnside makes a smart decision not to cross the river. So what we've done is we've flown upriver a little bit. Now we're going to turn around. We're going to point the camera down into the river itself. If you're familiar at all with Fredericksburg, we are along River Road, just upriver of the Route 1 bridge at Falmouth. Off to our left is Laux Island. And we're looking down into the river, and see how rocky this is? So that's really problematic for an army that's going to try to get across because, those rocks are going to really wreak havoc with your wagon wheels. You'll see as we get a little further down here, there are deep pockets that have sandy bottoms. Those are good places, or it's a good bottom to cross on. But because these pockets are so deep, these are not the places where the cows stand in the middle of the river. They're really hard to find. And of course, trying to find a spot where it's shallow and sandy is going to be problematic when you've got Confederate pickets looking. But look at the majority of this bottom here. And there's Kris and I in the upper right corner there, Kris flying the drone. Look at how rocky the bottom is. So if you're trying to get across with your artillery or your supply wagons, that's going to be extremely problematic. It's also going to pose a problem for your horses who are going to be trying to get across. And so if you go from the north to the south banks of the river and you just send your infantry, there's that possibility that they could get cut off. So you need to go with all of your supplies, all of your artillery support, all of your cavalry, your scouts, your officers, all those things that are on horseback. And look how problematic this river bottom would be for that kind of crossing. We're now coming down a little closer to, if we were to go a little further here, we'll get around the corner, we'd see the Route 1 bridge. We don't want to interfere with that. So what we're going to do is take a pause here. We're going to turn around, go back upriver so you can kind of get a good glimpse of just how problematic this crossing is. The other thing, too, is if it were to rain upriver, the river is going to rise, and suddenly this shallow river won't be so shallow anymore, and anybody who's come to the south bank is going to get cut off. So if you send your infantry over without those supplies, without that artillery, you have that chance of getting stranded. And so that's why Burnside makes a really smart military decision not to cross the Rappahannock, even though popular culture would have us believe, like, oh, what an idiot, he should have done that. So, I think that this drone footage gives us a really good idea. What we're going to do now is increase our elevation a little bit so you can get a good panoramic view. You'll see on the left-hand side of the screen Fall Hill Avenue going up to the ridgeline that becomes the Confederate position. There's also a canal that's going to stretch across the bottom part of that ridge line that's going to go from our right to the left. It's going to go there in front of Mary Washington Hospital, which you can see there, and then cut behind James Monroe High School, which is just coming into view for our left. Otherwise, this would have been a wide open attack plane. Federals coming from left to the right. You can certainly see the need for battlefield preservation here. And here's where the river is going to go from its west-east flow, curving around Fredericksburg to begin flowing to the south. East. So hopefully this gives you a better idea of what the perspective was that Ambrose Burnside is thinking of, what's on his mind, and why he's maybe not making such a bad decision after all, as he's waiting for pontoons to help him get across the river. Thanks again to Kris White, our chief historian, for our drone footage today and his capable piloting. I'm Kris Mackowski. On behalf of Emerging Civil War, thanks for being with us. We'll see you online and on the battlefield.